Most of us never learned how to train our brains, which is why most of us needlessly settle, struggle, and worse, suffer. My name is Chris Doris, and I want to make brain training mainstream. This is my series, Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm interviewing badasses from all walks of life on what mental toughness means to them and their unique approaches to strengthening their minds. Today, you are very fortunate because I have an amazing guest who I've known now for, I'm not sure, David, I was trying to remember how long we've known each other. Is it like, I don't know, 6 years? Is it?
I think so.
It's about 6 years, which when I was thinking about that, seems a little weird because I feel like I've known you for a hell of a lot longer than that. 6 years doesn't seem like enough for the depth of our friendship and our relationship, both personally and professionally. I have David Earhart today with us, who I met when he was Senior VP of Sales, Security Sales for CA Technologies. We were on stage together at a huge kickoff in Chicago. We did a fun skit together. And we've done a lot of work together, one-on-one coaching. I've worked with his family members, his daughter Emily, he's got a daughter Paige, and an amazing wife Elizabeth. And David is now the CEO of a company called Core Securities. And David, welcome to the blog.
It is great to be here. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, brother, trust me, I appreciate how busy you are. And I know that to even take, a half hour out of your time is a stretch for you. I get that. You're traveling the world these days, so I seriously appreciate you making time for us, man. And I'm really looking forward to this. Yeah. So, also you, David was, he went to Texas Tech. He was a captain of the tennis team. He was a baller, right? What was that, 1990 to 94? You were at Texas Tech?
That's very generous of you. Thank you. A little earlier than that.
Okay, well, close enough. So I wanted to talk. I just love listening to you. You have, you've been involved in what I just described in that intro, basically your whole life. You've been meditating forever. You've been committed to personal development and heightening consciousness long before we ever met. And that's why I have particular interest in just hearing from you on a few things. Like, for example, how do you define mental toughness? And what does it mean to you? And this is a very open-ended question. Where in your life is it critical? And how do you define it?
Oh man, that's a big question. I would say that for me, it's really mental toughness is all about controlling your thoughts and controlling the one thing that we can control, the only thing that we can control, and that's our attitude. And really just our perceptions on what is happening in the moment. And so for me, it's been a journey really just to try to live a more happy, fulfilled life, quite candidly. So that's been the pursuit for me.
So one of the things that I think is so cool about you have what, like around 200 employees at Core?
That's right.
Right? Yeah, and you are unapologetic in the way that you talk about the importance of actually being happy. Prioritizing what we're talking about right now. That's success on the business level. Let's just go there for a minute.
Sure.
It is really contingent upon mental toughness. So give me some examples of how is mental toughness critical, specifically with respect to your company's success?
Boy, I think that anytime you're in a fast-paced environment, even if you're not, just being able to have clarity of mind in the moment is absolutely critical, and being able to take action for the common good in the present moment. And then really just having a calm about you, regardless of what it gets served up, and having an attitude of gratitude, if you will. I hate to use that phrase, but really,
down with it.
Yeah, it's because one thing we all know in the business world, or really in any endeavor, is there's going to be obstacles, and just being able to embrace those with calm and with clarity. I think just certainly serves us in the business world.
What would you say was your, and maybe mental toughness like isn't the terminology that you would use back in this time of your life, but when would you say that you started actually training your mind, and how did you do that?
You know, that's a great question. And ever since I can remember, I've always thought about personal development and
Yeah.
professional development since I was a kid, candidly, trying to be the best tennis player I could be, and then, just various endeavors that I took on. I always had a bit of an affinity to just trying to improve. So it's not something. It's not a new.
Did you
It's
say
not a
kind
new.
of there? Did you say kind of an affinity? Yeah. this guy right here, David Earhart, has taken more copious notes like on anything I put out there, but on everything that you read, you are voracious. So we can just remove the words kind of. Yeah, you've had an affinity for sure.
Well, yeah, it's been kind of a lifelong journey, if you will, and and I just think it's again kind of going back to what I said earlier. It's the one thing that we actually can take control of, and that's our attitude and our mind. As long as we're alive, nothing else, everything else is out of our control. And so to me, it just seems like it makes a lot of sense to be very self-inquiring and reflective on and how we're interpreting what's going on, and just getting as tough as we can be mentally to face whatever is thrown at us.
So back to the company. So you sell software, you sell securities, right?
We
Enterprise
do.
security. So you're in a fast growth company, right? You're in a very, very competitive world.
Hmm.
So give me just one or two examples of your employees, of how they need to have mental toughness. What kinds of threats arise, right? And when I say threats, I mean, well, actually, threats is a good word since you're a security software company. So what are like the inner threats? What are the threats that happen, right? That would threaten our software,
Yeah.
right? They're your employee software.
Yeah, so Core is a company that's made up of 5 different companies that have come together over the last 18 months. So anytime you're integrating 5 companies and in a very competitive, high-paced environment like we are here, involved with here at Core, it's can be very chaotic. And
Mm.
I think anybody here at Core that's watching this would certainly agree that we've been through a lot. And I think that probably the most important mental toughness technique that candidly I learned from you is just this ability to catch your thoughts, own them, and then replace them with thoughts that can really serve you. So it's keeping in that
Mm.
state of mind where you can perform at your best. And one phrase that I've been using a lot recently with the executive team here at Core is the Navy SEALs mantra is calm is contagious. And
Oh, I love that.
yeah, it's just this notion of that,
Wow,
it's us as leaders to be
I like
decisive,
that.
but be extremely calm, and just face what, the obstacles that we're facing, just with that clarity of mind, certainty of judgment in the present moment, as I mentioned, and then with that with that frame of mind to be able to take action for the common good in the present moment.
So you're using a lot of language that is indicative of somebody who's actually been invested in strengthening their minds for a very long time. And so let's talk back up there to the part where you said that, like the practice, and that's what I think is really important for people to hear about. Okay, so how specifically do you practice in any way? In any way?
Yeah.
And I know you got a lot of ways. So just give us one or two. Like if you had to teach somebody who had no knowledge whatsoever about like the actual exercises that you could do. Like I was saying
Yeah.
in the intro, like when we're working out physically, we know there's all kinds of exercises. We know them. You're in great shape. We got all kinds of push-ups, sit-ups. We got planking. We got cardio stuff, and there's all different kinds for different areas of the body, right? For different muscle
Yeah.
groups. What are
Yeah.
one or
So
two exercises for this one?
Yeah, so the book that you have over your left shoulder, "Creating Your Dream," why, and I'm going to plug your work for a second, and even though you told me not to, is that what I like about the work you put together and how you packaged it is there's a lot of work out there that you can read that tell you, talk about enlightenment, talk about personal development, But candidly, if you don't have techniques and ways to apply it, it becomes just it dies. I mean, and so what so much impacted me was the actual disciplines in the book. So whether it's catch, own, replace.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about catch,
Okay.
own, replace. Okay, so like in your experience, what does that mean? Just what is that? Catch what? Own what?
Yeah. So one of the things I believe that is indicative of living a powerful life is being in a state of constant self-inquiry and really understanding what's going on in your head. What are you thinking? Why are you thinking that way? And a lot of times this is just instantaneous, but it's basically this notion of anytime I'm feeling anything but pleasant, you know, what am I believing? What am I thinking? And so it's this notion of being able to catch that very quickly, own it, own up to it, try, you know, reflect on it, say, okay, why am I thinking that way? It's not serving me, and then replacing it with a more powerful perspective. And that's really that simple.
Yeah, right. And I love that. I love that you just said that. Right, it is that simple. And wouldn't it have been cool if we were asked the question, what are you thinking? Seriously ask the question. Because the only way I've ever been asked that question is, what are you thinking? It's been kind of like, you know, sort of an insult, like, what's wrong with you? As opposed to, hey, what are you actually thinking right now? No, I want you to tell me, like, what, you know, so I didn't get that. You know, it's like you see me, you know, when I give these talks, you know, there's a room full of a couple hundred people just, you know, in New York last week. And I always in the beginning, because I'm really genuinely interested in this, I say, how many people in here have had any formal training on how to actually strengthen the way that you use your mind? And there's typically like 2. So like maybe 1% of the room has had any form. And I actually ask them, like, what is it? And they'll say, like, you know, what was that? What's that mental training program? It wasn't in schools. What's it called? Whatever. I can't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like,
no,
it's not Mensa. It was like some kind of, it wasn't incorporated in curriculum. But anyway, very few people have had any experience with that. And you know, I happen to believe, and I'd be interested in hearing your impression on this, that if we did have, if every human that ever goes to school anywhere on the planet has formal training, and just like what you described, just that, being able to self-inquire and to elevate your state on purpose in a moment, we might not have war.
Yeah.
We may not have crime.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're in that state of mind, why would war in any way serve you? You know, it's a great example.
Yeah, when I'm in an elevated state, I don't feel like harming people.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in the zone, when I'm in any like above the O line, right? In other words, in high grade states, right? High vibrational moods, like enthusiasm, gratitude, appreciation, joy, enthusiasm, creativity, excitement, peace, calm. I don't think I've ever felt like the need when I'm experiencing those states to be harmful.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so.
But
so
then
true.
how does that, as an athlete, how does that though play into competitiveness? So you're a high grade. I mean, you're phenomenal. To be a captain of a Division I tennis team, you gotta got game. So.
Well, in tennis and in a lot of skilled sports, actually having control of your mind is very important. Matter of fact, I think I would have been a better tennis player back then if I was able to control my nerves more effectively. But you know, certainly a game is different than life. I mean, a game is you know, and in one of the mental toughness techniques that I learned from you was getting your game face on. So there's putting yourself in a certain frame of mind depending upon what performing moment you're in. For instance, if you're if you're about to play football or do something competitive like that, you probably want to get really amped up and use a technique to get in that state of mind. But if you're about to do a piano recital, you probably want to be in a different state of mind. So these are they're just techniques that you captured in your book of just being able to apply, getting into the best state of mind for the performance that you're taking on at that moment.
I appreciate you, brother. This is not a commercial for my book, but I do appreciate the problem.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that you've been practicing for a very long time, long before you met me. And it's something that I was actually afraid to really bring up. And when I was giving talks at like executive forums, my mentor had a group of all CEOs, and he would have me come in and speak on mental toughness. But one thing that I was very trepid about ever addressing until he really encouraged me to was, you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do.
Where am I going with this?
Meditation.
Damn right. Yeah, I was afraid. Yeah, I was afraid to bring it up. You know why?
I don't know why. Why?
Because I thought they would laugh me out of the room.
Oh, I thought you were afraid to bring it up now. I couldn't understand why you'd be afraid to bring it up now. No, I meant like this is like 10 years ago, maybe, you know, and I didn't have my druthers yet in the executive forum. You know, I still had ideas that they were different humans. That you business leaders, that you're like different. You're not typical humans. And that if I brought up something as soft, because that's what people call it. They call a lot of what I do in the corporate world soft skills training. Yeah.
Which I don't like that.
Right.
Right. I don't like it because it sounds like it's like a less than. It sounds like it's not as important. Like it's soft. You know, where in the corporate world we want to crush it. We need to work hard. Right. We can't have the soft stuff. But you're a practitioner. You are a practitioner of meditation.
I am.
Can you talk a little bit about it? Like how you got into it? Why is it useful for you? Are you reluctant to talk? Do you tell your employees that you practice meditation?
Yeah. So thanks for bringing this one up, because I'm going to go back to something I said earlier, and that is that, you know, all of the coaching in the world, it really boils down to nothing if you don't have techniques that you apply. And so meditation, to me, is one of the most important mental toughness techniques that you could possibly take on. And I didn't talk about it for 20 years. I started meditating when I was 25. Actually, a friend and I were way too amped up about work and kind of stressed out. And we played tennis together and squash together. And we said, you know what, I've heard that meditation is something interesting, and let's go take a course. And so we took a course together in meditation. This was, like I said, I was 25 years old, and I started practicing it once or twice a day for quite a long time, and stayed with it off and on for many years. And it got me into a much more relaxed state. And I recommitted to it. I practiced it continuously, but not necessarily every day. And about actually after reading your book again, and the technique you call it is the gap. And I said, you know, I'm going to commit to this on a continuous basis. And I practice once or twice every day. Wow. So to me, it's the most important mental toughness technique that I know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, because like you're so busy. And you're practicing meditation once or twice a day. So that's interesting. Okay. Like for how long? Because I think some people, when they hear about this, they're like, holy shit, you're taking 2 hours? I think a lot of people just assume that meditation needs to be long. And sometimes it is. But how do you practice it?
So typically for 20 minutes in the morning, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 10, just depending upon the situation. But typically 20 minutes seems to be the right time for me. And then if I'm able to practice it again later in the day, usually 5 to 20 minutes. So if I can get just a few minutes to kind of just center my mind, and the thing about meditation that I think intimidates people is that it's I would like to just talk about this a minute, because it's something, like I said, for years I wouldn't even admit to anybody that I did it, because I thought they would think I was a freak.
Right.
And then, you know, now that you and I had 250 people meditate in a room once, my team. So I've gone full circle. But the thing about meditation is it's really very simple. And people think like they've tried it and they say, I'm not good at it. There's not good or bad. Matter of fact, it's just the intent to try to quiet your mind is where all the benefit from meditation comes. So it's just simply trying to quiet your mind, not giving yourself 20 minutes a day to not entertain thoughts. So if they pop into your head, you just let them go, and you give yourself that freedom just to say, okay, I'm gonna go thoughtless to the degree possible. And sometimes I joke that sometimes I feel like I have monkeys clanging in my head, with cymbals. And this is a guy that's been doing this for 20 something years. I still today, I don't do it any better today than I did 20 years ago. It's not doing it good or doing it bad. It's just simply the giving yourself the opportunity for your mind just to quiet and rest for a period of time. It's extremely powerful.
So what would you say are like one or two of the benefits that you get from it that have you want to continue to do that practice?
Well, for one thing, it's like a major power nap. So, if it for me, it gives me the benefit of probably like 2 hours of sleep, candidly. So I don't, I get up really early in the morning and I don't necessarily sleep a long time unless my body needs it, because if I'm meditating, it's like I said, it's like a major power nap. And it just gives you a chance to just slow down, be reflective, just kind of get centered, and really does, going thoughtless there's no better example than living in the moment. If you just are absolutely entertaining nothing but just that moment in time. So there's all sorts of things that people talk about, like it helps with a hangover. It helps if you're sleep deprived. I mean, there's all sorts of things that meditation through the years have proven to be helpful. It helps with certain afflictions. I mean, certain conditions. It helps you can get over a cold quicker. I mean, it's just it's a practice that's been going on for thousands of years. So I think there's probably something to it.
Probably. We'll just keep testing it and see if anything good. I have to remember that hangover application, because that's one of the times I would say would be the least likely for me to have the discipline to do it, and that would be when I would need it most. Which is actually, joking aside, I think very relevant to all these mental toughness tools. Is right. It's like the times when we're having a hard time, when things aren't going the way we want them to be. That's when we most need these mental tools, right? And if we haven't rehearsed them, then we really won't have access to them. So in your world as a CEO, I'm asking right now, specifically professionally speaking, like in the corporate world, what are the biggest threats to your peace of mind? What kinds of circumstances have it be really challenging for you to have that contagious calm?
Yeah, it's just, again, we're just in a very, very fast-paced world, and there's just a lot going on. So there's an opportunity to be distracted constantly, and there's an opportunity. I actually want to talk about this because you mentioned the O line, and I'm not sure if the people watching this know what that is, but Chris coached my entire executive team, and one of the things that we've adopted as part of our language is being at the O. And what that means is that at the lowest grade interpretation of any situation is observation.
Like I'm observing this mosquito keeping flying.
Yeah.
I'm using the tool right now.
So we talk about it all the time as an executive team, but probably was brought up 3 times today already with different conversations with the executives. But it's this notion of no matter what is thrown at us, whether through competition, whatever it is that our lowest grade interpretation of a situation is simply observation, and that we don't allow ourselves to interpret anything in a lower grade state than just observation. And from there, we have the opportunity to elevate our state to a more powerful state of mind. But I would say that is one of the techniques, or the at least part of our language when in this crazy world that we live in, that no matter what it is, and another one that I hear all the time, ain't bad, just is, which is one, there you go, that's the shirt, ain't bad, just is. And that's just basically saying that whatever comes our way, we interpret it at the lowest grade possible. It's just simply observation. It isn't bad or it isn't good. It just is. And just, just embrace it and deal with it.
So, that's okay. That is a big stuck point, I guess, is one way of referring to it for people. When I'm first, if I'm giving these talks or I'm introducing mental toughness to a crowd, I really encourage people to challenge. I don't want anyone to necessarily just believe. I would rather them test anything. I'm not attached to anyone believing anything that I have to say. What I am attached to is liberating people from the belief that they ever don't have control of their minds. But one of the things that so what you're describing is like my worst interpretation of a set of circumstances. I want it to be neutral. So oftentimes in this point in a conversation about that as a possibility, someone will go, hold on. So you're saying that I'm supposed to, it's like I get a flat tire and I'm supposed to be happy? That's so, right? And so their thinking is I'm supposed to be happy about getting a flat tire. How would you respond to that person?
It's not about, whether you're supposed to, or it's simply, again, the one thing we can control is our attitude. There's nothing else in the world that we can control is our perceptions. And so to me, it's just healthy to accept with gratitude anything that comes your way, and at least give yourself an opportunity to interpret it in a powerful way. So, listen, I don't want to get a flat tire when I drive home tonight, but if I got a flat tire, wouldn't it serve me better to figure out how I can at least benefit in some way from that? Maybe it slowed me down, just enough.
Wow.
Who knows? It gave me more time to listen to a book on tape that I was, wanting to listen to. I don't know. I'm just making this up.
Sure.
But whether it's a sickness, whether it's anything that is thrown at you, it's just it's our opportunity to accept it with gratitude in the moment.
Let's go. Okay. So here now, I got this challenge the other day too.
Okay.
They said, okay, fine. The flat tire, okay, I can get that. How about you find out your loved one is terminal?
Yeah, that's a tough thing to accept with gratitude. But you know what? I truly believe that everything is happening for a reason. Things are unfolding exactly as they're supposed to unfold. Candidly, we're all terminal. This world's ephemeral, and it's the one thing that we all have in common is we're all going to die, and we all have 168 hours in a week. And listen, that's not the news I want to get, but regardless of whether it's good or bad news, we have the opportunity just to embrace it. So even the thought of the person I love more than anybody, my wife, coming down with a terminal illness. I mean, just the thought of it is upsetting, but at the same time, we all have the same sentence, and you just, if nothing else in a situation like that, we at least have the opportunity to have complete clarity of what's important to us for the time we have remaining together. So I don't know. I wasn't expecting that question. I'm not sure if I want that recorded,
No, but these are the conversations that I think need to happen. Okay. It's like, because it is safe to talk about flat tires, right? And mental toughness or tennis. Okay. Or even business. But when we get into stuff that like is really so hard for us to not have a problem with, like losing a limb, losing a loved one, death, suffering, right? Like a long illness, or Alzheimer's. These things that involve pain and suffering and death. I think those are I love everything you just said. I love everything you just said because I really believe that there is no exception. There is no circumstance that is exempt from the fact that it can be leveraged. Every set of circumstances can be leveraged for some type of value, individually and collectively, if viewed masterfully, if interpreted masterfully. And did you ever see the Byron Katie segment on YouTube? entitled "What's the Worst That Could Happen"?
I didn't. I'm certainly familiar with her because you've talked about her, and she seems like remarkable.
So this is something that I came across fairly recently. Somebody suggested it, and it's so powerful. So I definitely recommend you. I recommend everybody listening to go to YouTube and in the search box just type in Byron Katie, right? Byron, last name Katie. That is actually her name. Her first name is Byron. Her last name is Katie. Right. And then type in "What's the worst that could happen?" It's like a 6-minute clip. It's just a clip of her doing one of her public seminars, and she's asking the question. She's in the same conversation we're in right now.
Yeah.
Which is like, look, there's nothing bad to talk about.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can't be talked about. In fact, there's nothing that's even unpleasant, including death. So she says, let's just test it. So what's the worst that could happen? And the guy raises his hand, they give him the microphone, and he says, you come home and your whole family's been killed. Okay, that's a pretty good example.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you not have a problem with that? How do you not have a serious problem with that? And you know what the answer is? It's the same way you don't have a problem with a flat tire. Like, well, those aren't the same things. No, they're not the same things.
Yeah.
They're not the same things. Right? And no, we don't want that to happen. It's not what we're hoping for. But it is and I don't want to ruin the video because I had a hard time watching it the first time.
Mm. Well, I look forward to watching it. You know, on this topic, whenever I think about things like this, I refer back to Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search of Meaning. And there's two aspects of that are very powerful in my mind. Is that, you know, Viktor Frankl and his wife and daughter were separated, and his wife and daughter were gassed and killed in a Nazi concentration camp, and he went on to survive, and under some of the worst conditions possible. And the whole point of the book is he found meaning in that process, although his life was, you know, physically very, very difficult as well as mentally. But you know, he took some comfort in the fact that his wife and daughter were not having to go through what he was going through, which is interesting because that was a choice that he made. If he at least found some comfort in that fact, and then he just, you know, in his time in the concentration camp, he just embraced it, and actually, you know, people that were around him lived longer. They had a higher survival rate. Anybody that was in his particular cell or wherever he was. So that's a great book. That is one book. If I had to recommend any one book around mental toughness, that would be, other than your book, of course, Chris. That would be a good one.
You gotta stop. I swear to God, I did not ask him to do this. That's some powerful stuff, man. So it's like, it's possible. Wow, finding meaning in suffering. So like the examples that we could come up with of like the worst possible fathomable problems can be reinterpreted.
We certainly have that opportunity.
That's deep, man. And that's the real practice. See, right? It's like, I want to not have a problem. I want to not have a problem with reality.
Yeah.
That's my mission. And I think that you know, the closer we get to that, then the more powerful we are. So I want to thank you, brother, for making a half hour, taking the time out for this. This has been cool, really cool conversation. I totally appreciate you, man. The people that you're leading are really blessed to have you, dude.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate your friendship and all your insights today. So thanks so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, Chris. It's always a pleasure.
Right on.
Thanks so much.
David Earhart. Talk to you soon, man. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care.